Michael Hamilton, Director of Football Craig Cope, First Team Manager Johnny Jackson, AFC Wimbledon Chair Mick Buckley and Managing Director Danny Macklin. There'll just be questions obviously from people here, but first of all just a few words from each of the people on the panel which are addressing some of the questions we had sent in. So if we can just respect all the people on the panel the best we can, would be very much appreciated. So first of all, Michael, a few words.
Thank you for coming tonight. Obviously I manage the academy, so any questions in relation to the future and planning moving forward, please feel free to ask.
Yeah.
No, I thought careful.
Does this work? Hello. Can you go? Hello. Okay. Hello. Can you hear me? Okay. Good. So, as I understand it, I think Chris was about to say that we have been inundated with questions for this meeting. In advance of the meeting, which is absolutely fantastic in terms of the engagement with the club at the moment. So what we have decided to do is we're each going to kind of cover off the questions that were directed at us up front, and then in the second part of the evening you will then throw it to the floor and you can ask the same questions again or ask us something else relating to what we've said. Okay. So, Chris, am I correct? That's what we're going to do?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, all right, good. So, in my role of AFC Wimbledon Chair, I had quite a lot of questions come my way, and I have broken them down into 5 different areas. And the first one was, the first questions were around who I actually am, what is my role, and where did I come from? So, I'll take that in a positive way, but so I am a lifelong fan. I was raised in South Wimbledon. I was one of hundreds of people who were involved in the formation of the club back in 2002. My professional background is in the media industry, so I worked my way up and I ran 2 big broadcasters, global broadcasters, where I got lots of experience in managing organisations, managing newsrooms, managing comms, managing commercial, and then all of the other stuff you have to do to run a company around finance, HR, and all those kind of things. So I did that. I then moved into being a consultant and helping other business leaders and their companies build organisations that would help them and their companies succeed. So professionally, I led 2 big companies, and for the last 10 years I've been working with different business people around London to help them kind of build winning organisations. So that's a little bit about me. I was originally co-opted onto the Dons Trust Board, I think in about 2004. But at that point in time was extremely busy running a company, so I think I did my initial term but didn't retain involvement. In 2012, when I had kind of moved into the second bit of my career, the Dons Trust Board rang up again and said, would you come back and be prepared to be co-opted? So I've never actually asked for the club for a job in any way, but whenever the club has asked me to do something, I've always said yes. So I came back, and after a year I was asked if I would kindly be the Dons Trust Board's representative on the football club board. So I think Ivor's here somewhere, Eric's probably here. There was a 4-person football club board, which was myself, David Charles, Eric and Ivor Heller, and we did that for 5 years, and I was the non-exec, so I did the challenging and supporting, and I kind of got to walk out the room without a to-do list at the end of the meetings, which was really good. But we worked through lots of issues, and it was very good. So like a lot of senior media people, because the skills of growing the football industry are similar to the skills involved in rolling out media brands, I was sounded out over the years about senior jobs in football, but I just thought it's such a crazy industry, I don't really want an operational role in that industry. So chose not to do that, but I think it was good for the football club AFC Wimbledon to have me around in case of emergency, because I was quite a good person to bring in on an interim basis. So last March, it became clear that Joe Palmer was leaving, and the Dons Trust Board asked me if I would step in for a 4-month period as an interim chair, just to kind of steady the ship and identify what kind of structure we needed post-COVID and in our new stadium to be successful. So I came in and did that and identified a structure which I think most of you know involved splitting the organisation into kind of stadium operations and business on one side and football on the other side. I felt it was just too much for one person to handle, and I recommended employing a managing director and a head of football operations, and I'm pleased to say the managing director is sitting to one side of me and the head of football operations is over there. So they came. At that point, the Dons Trust Board asked me if I would stay till the end of this year and just embed the new structure and help the new employees immerse themselves into the club. So that's what I committed to do. So I am chair of AFC Wimbledon PLC, which is a board of 6 people, which is the operating board of the club. And I'm also playing a role for this year as chair of the club to support these guys to be successful. So, and in terms of who I am, I live in Cheam, I have 2 grown-up children, I'm married, I've got a fantastic dog, and all I think about most of the time apart from all that is Wimbledon, the club being successful. I'm desperate for Wimbledon to be one day back in the championship. And when it is, I'll be absolutely delighted. And I don't know how that's going to happen, but I know it will happen. It'll be fantastic. So that just tells you a little bit about me and how I ended up here. So I wasn't voted. I'm a non-social media using introvert. So I think if I ever stood for the Dons Trust Board, I know I wouldn't get elected. But I have been put in place by the people that you did elect. So just to give you some reassurance. I've tried to approach the job, obviously I'm a Wimbledon fan and I get very, very emotional when Wimbledon play, and I'm very, very emotional about anything to do with the club. But in the role that I'm playing, I've tried to strip all the emotion out and just approach it in a logical, external consultant type manner. So I look at the facts, I look at historical data, I look at the probability of things happening, and I use that to kind of make decisions. So, that's the first group of questions was about me, who I am, what the role is, what does it entail. So the next group of questions were around where do I see the club at the moment, how do I assess the prospects for the club. And in the moment, we've just had an awful, painful, challenging 9 months. But in the moment, the club has got enormous potential to succeed in the future. So, you know, the way I think about it is we've got this amazing stadium that we're sitting in. We own the freehold. We have a planning permission to expand. We have a prolific academy. We have a committed, predictable and accountable owner, and not many football clubs can say that. I guarantee that there are so many different types of people in this room with so many different interests, and probably if we bumped into each other on holiday, we wouldn't have anything in common until we realised we both supported Wimbledon. So there is a fantastic shared purpose around this club which brings people together. And what that has resulted in is hundreds and hundreds of people having an idea and turning it into this. And this really is just the beginning of what can be achieved. We get joined by more and more people. We create the environment where they want to get involved and join in. And really there are no limits to what we can achieve working together. And that makes me very excited about the future. The other thing I would say that when I'm assessing the good things about AFC Wimbledon, we are progressing. We have events here at the moment that we couldn't have had a year ago. We're hitting targets. You know, our financial targets are was to break even this year, and we've hit that target, and I'll say more about that in the next section. And the next group of questions were about what are the challenges of the club. So I've told you all the good things and all the potential, but you know, it's never that straightforward. There's also challenges. So I would say, taking a just logical approach to it and looking at it as a consultant, the club has not yet fully transitioned our organisation from a non-league set up at Kings Meadow to a professional, forward-looking organisation at Plough Lane. And by that I mean we still haven't embedded the right structures, the right people, the right processes, and we haven't yet updated our strategy, although I know that's work in progress. So I think we're directionally doing very, very well, but there's still quite a lot of work to do there. The club has £10 million of debt, a bit more than that actually, but it's roughly £10 million of debt. We pay £400,000 interest every year, and in April 2025 we have to repay £3.5 million to our bondholders. Okay, so these are the challenges we're looking at now. We're not competing in a level playing field, so I think that when all the numbers are crunched and done for this financial year, the average club in League Two will probably lose £1 million. We won't, because we're breaking even, and we're also paying £400,000 of interest. So there are lots and lots of different ways of looking at numbers, but you could take the view that we start £1.4 million behind, but then we also monetize our club story and our uniqueness. So it's not quite that straightforward, but I think it's something that we need to be aware of. I think we have other challenges. I'm going to talk more about this in the next set of questions, but around our training ground operations, I think so much effort went into this place, and we've changed our manager 4 times or 5 times, depending on which way you look at it, in a short period of time. A lot of learning and focus left the training ground. We are behind there, and Craig is going to talk more about that in a little while. So it is a challenge, because that's where the players go to work every day. They don't come here, they go to the training ground, and we need to get it sorted. Another challenge is to monetize this stadium. Yeah, sorry, at the beginning I said I'm summarizing the answers to the questions in this. So, if it's okay, I'll keep going, and if it's not working as we get into the questions, then we can have the conversation. So shall I come on to the next question, which is a number of fans want to change the manager. Where is the board at on that subject? So, the board is not currently of the view that we should change the manager, and as the chair of that board, I would like to share some of the thinking behind that. Is the room okay if I keep going? Okay, thank you very much. So, what informs the board's thinking? And it's kind of maybe a uniquely AFC Wimbledon thing that the guy that I'm talking about is sitting beside me, but I think that's quite good. So the average manager in football lasts 16 to 18 months. 4.5 years ago, Neil Ardley was still manager, and not including Simon Bassey and Mark Bowen, we've had 4 managers since then. Every time one of those left, it cost the club quite a lot of money, and important learning left the building. So there were payoffs for each of those managers, and we lost continuity of learning and continuity of thinking. What's the impact of changing a manager in football? As fans, I'm a fan, we all want to change the manager. Statistically, occasionally it works really well, occasionally. Generally, the impact of changing a manager is negligible. There's always something else going on in the organisation that can be looked at. So the board looked at League Two in the season that's just passed at clubs that changed their managers. This is kind of long, but interesting. Rochdale were bottom in March, they sacked Bentley, they finished bottom. Hartlepool were third bottom in February, they sacked Curl, they finished second bottom. Crawley were third bottom in October, they sacked Betsy, replaced him. At the end of December they were still third bottom, they fired their next manager. Newport fired their manager, went from 18th to 14th. Crewe fired their manager, stayed 16th. Doncaster fired their manager, dropped 3 places. Walsall changed their manager twice in 14 months, managed to climb 2 places. Colchester changed the manager and then spent an absolute fortune in January to be able to go up 2 places in the league table. So statistically, it's not always about changing the manager, and this was the sort of stuff that the board looked at and looks at on an ongoing basis. The view of the board is that the bigger issue for this club is actually getting our recruitment and our football operations sorted out. And that's what the club would like to concentrate on this summer. So, before I talk about our current manager in terms of the positive qualities, let's just look at the top of League Two and what clubs do at the top of League Two. So we looked at the last 3 seasons. We want to get to the top 7 of this league. I mean, that's where we've got to be looking at getting. For the last 3 seasons, the top 7 clubs, so that's 21 clubs, 17 of them had their manager that got to the top 7 in place in this point of time. They didn't wait until the summer, or they actually had their person here. They got to know the club. They got to know how to work with the culture of that club. They were into the training ground, they were into operations. So the clubs that are doing well, they were sorted with their manager by this place in time. If you look at the top 8 of League Two now, there's only 1 club that's changed their manager this year, and they are underperforming quite significantly against the budget they're spending, and that's Salford. They've changed their manager 3 times in 2 years. So with the money they're spending, they should actually be higher up than they are. So, the board also looked at the man who is currently first team manager. He was recruited last summer in a thorough recruitment process. He achieved an impressive points per game at Charlton that wasn't equalled the last time we looked at by either of his 2 successors. So both the managers who've worked at Charlton since have achieved less than Johnny achieved when he was there. He was recommended to us by several former Premier League managers and other people very respected in the game. There was dismay by Charlton fans when he was allowed to leave Charlton, and most AFC Wimbledon fans were hugely enthusiastic when his appointment was announced. He really wanted to come here and help us withstand the shock of relegation, rebuild and come back. Some of the other people we spoke to, we were desperately selling them the club, and it was a bit of a battle, quite frankly, whereas Johnny had other offers but chose to come here because he wanted to. He'd been here as a manager, he'd seen the atmosphere, he wanted to come here and make it work. Practically speaking, I'm not sitting next to a man who's paid millions of pounds by AFC Wimbledon, and you know, he's not paid a fortune, but he will earn well when he's successful, so the club can afford him. The club couldn't afford other people. I never told you that, Johnny, but there you go. So, we changed our manager at the end of last season. Johnny came in late, had limited impact on recruitment because a lot of players were already pre-contracted, dealt with the disruption of players who were here who wanted to leave, and rather than doing what some people would have done, he actually went with the club. You know, our last player didn't leave till the 21st of August because we wanted to get the maximised value for those players. So we were turning down offers all summer, and Johnny had to manage that at the training ground, which he did really well. I guess the main recruits he made were Pierce, Pell, Davison, Paris from Brentford, and Riley Towler. It became harder and harder during the summer to get players to come here because more and more money was coming into League Two. So I think you know, we started off believing our budget was top 8, and it's ended up, we think, probably being about 17th. The squad came together late, and the season started. The first 9 games were not very impressive in terms of the points tally. So Johnny actually sought feedback from within the club and also externally. And by the way, everything I'm telling you is answering a question that's been sent in. So if I'm boring you, apologies, but I want to make sure that I answer all the questions that we've been received. So after the first 8 games, 9 points, not enough, Johnny actually went and spoke to people. We have football people advising the club who he spoke to. He spoke to me on behalf of the board and got the feedback he needed, and he changed the style of play. We went to Bradford, and we were very, very unlucky, for those of you that were at Bradford for the away game, not to get 3 points there. But it started a run of 18 games where we had a full squad, no injuries. We got 31 points, and that's actually playoff form, 1.72 points per game. We then went to Orient in the middle of January. Husbyler got injured. The next couple of games were pretty respectable draws, I think Northampton and Carlisle. And then it all started to go wrong. The wheels came off. We'd lost to Sal, Tyler, Paris. Husbyler got injured. The Hartlepool game, Pierce went, and that was just the start of a long run of injuries. So during those 18 games, when we had everything together, we were in playoff form, and obviously the Hartlepool game was just absolutely dreadful. But had we held on to that 2-1 lead, then we're 3 points from the playoffs. But anyway, we don't do could, shoulds, ifs or woulds, right? But so for the rest of the season, it has been unacceptable. It's been painful. I've got to tell you, if you've been feeling the pain, everyone sitting up here has probably felt it and a little bit more. It's been very, very tough. Performances didn't always get the points they deserved. Young players who probably wouldn't have been in the team, with no disrespect to them, came under enormous amounts of pressure, and bad decision making started to creep in. More experienced players, you know, probably should have been rested for a lot of the games they played. So lessons have been learnt in terms of our recruitment, the squad makeup. We had way too many injuries, which is why I say we really need to look at training ground operations as a priority. And just anecdote, no, I won't give you anecdotally because you've probably heard enough of me already. So in deciding to continue with the current manager, the board considered the normal negligible change that results from changing a manager, the fact we've had 5 managers in 4.5 years, and the financial and lost learnings impact of that. The fact that Johnny was the standout candidate from a fairly recent recruitment process, arrived late, was flexible in his approach, deliver playoff form, and I think most importantly, has demonstrated whilst he's been here a lot of the traits that are Wimbledon. So we know that, you know, Johnny was the first non-Wimbledon manager we employed for quite a long time, since Terry Brown. And, you know, people frequently say to me, he's not a Wimbledon person, he's not one of us. So I talk to him most days. I meet him at least twice a week, and I can tell you he works relentlessly with his team to get success for this club. He shares our values of resilience. I think you'll agree I'm sitting next to someone who's shown resilience, togetherness. He's desperate for success and he wants constant improvement. So for the people who are shouting in, I'm reporting to you the way the board has assessed the situation. Yeah. So, did you give out the rules of engagement, Chris? I can't remember. So we have children in the room, so I know that we're all feeling very emotional and passionate, and part of the point of this evening is that we can kind of discuss that and share that with each other, but if we can keep it respectful and watch the language, that'd be good.
Can I just echo, just the gentleman in orange, we made it very clear at the start of this that we would allow more than ample time from the floor. These are questions that have been asked from fans that couldn't make tonight. We're only able to give a 2-week notice or so before that. It's being recorded so it can be shown online at a later date. We will give plenty of opportunity for questions to be posed. We are literally answering questions here that can give some context to the situation that we're in, the context of the season that we've had to the 45 game point we're at the moment, and then there will be plenty of opportunities to pose your questions, concerns, considerations, ideas, suggestions.
Thank you. So, having said all of that, none of our employees get a blank check here. As long as the club has given people the resources and the environment to succeed, then they will need to get results. I know that, Danny knows that, Craig knows that, Michael knows that, and Johnny knows that. So when we have got everything sorted out at the training ground, we've recruited well, we've figured out how to stop the injuries happening, people will be expected to get results. So, I'm going to stop there. And I'm actually going to give the mic to Johnny, who is, in a similar vein, going to cover some of the questions he's been asked. And I'll just say again, there will be plenty of time for everyone to have their say before we finish tonight, okay?
Thanks, Mick. Yeah, I'll keep it quite brief for now, and then obviously happy to answer any of your questions later. First of all, it's great to see so many of you here tonight. Probably the one constant thing is the way that you guys have turned up in your numbers this season, despite obviously being a very disappointing season on the pitch, and certainly not the one that we envisaged at the start. I think there has been some highlights along the way. Certainly, you know, one that I always look back on was the Leyton Orient game here, where we obviously defeated the eventual champions 2-0 in a really strong performance, which, you know, hopefully resembled a Wimbledon team that, you know, you like the look of and you can be proud of. And at that stage of the season, we was really hopeful that we would kick on. Second half of the season, turn of the years, obviously proved much more challenging, and it's not gone the way that we wanted for various reasons. Obviously, Mick's touched on a few of those, but you know, most notably probably the outgoings in January, and most certainly the injuries that we've sustained in the second half of the season has put paid to any prospects that we had. So what's important is that we learn the lessons of all that stuff, the stuff that Mick spoke about, and you know, I've stated on more than one occasion that all the hurt and suffering that we're all feeling in this room won't be for nothing, because we will have learnt some real valuable lessons going forward into next season. I've learnt a lot about myself, about the staff, the players, the football club, that I know moving forward I'll be in a much better position to deliver what you guys want. And what I would say is, sat here today, the work going on behind the scenes and the foundations that we're building now with Craig coming in and Danny and the work that's going on as far as, you know, getting our recruitment right and stuff, we're miles in front of where we was at this stage last season with the building blocks that are in place. So we're really positive about the work that we can get done in the summer, the recruitment, getting the infrastructure right away from here at the training ground, and providing a platform that we know that we can deliver for you guys next season, deliver the type of Wimbledon team that you want to see and that you deserve. And I can promise you that we're all working tirelessly towards that.
Evening, guys. I'm Craig, I'm the head of football operations here, and I just want to briefly go through some bits I've prepared based on the questions obviously we had in. I've brought in Mr. Andrew Thorne, who sat in the corner, apparently had a half-decent career here. We've had a very good recruitment meeting this afternoon, and something Andy said to me just in passing was everyone remembers the FA Cup win and the promotions and all the success Wimbledon FC had, and that was amazing. Obviously, it's a great part of the story. But the key point you made, Andy, was you said the amount of effort that went in before that, the preparation, the foundations that were in place prior to that happening, and the club bursting onto the scene. And I thought about, well, that's where what I want to get across to you guys tonight is we're now putting in place. I'm not going to say we're going to win the FA Cup, but we're putting in the foundations behind the scenes to make sure we can sustain success out on the pitch more often than not. So my role is quite vast, actually. So player recruitment's the biggest aspect that we have to get right at this football club, and it's one thing that we're really putting structure in now to make sure we're getting the right types of players in, the right types of people in, and we can build a team that is reflective and you guys can really represent yourselves with. That's what I want to see, it's what Johnny wants to see, it's what everyone wants to see here, is a committed team going out on that pitch every single week, representing the badge and the club. So that's what we're working towards. It's about creating alignment, so we've put down on a piece of paper a document about how we're going to strategise moving forward, what it looks like, how we align. The academy have done fantastic with the players that we've come through. We've been spoiled by you, Michael, and the team that have been there before, so thank you very much for that. We want to put out there a team that's representative of you guys and representative of what we believe in as well. So a style of play has been drummed up to reflect what this club's about, what we feel, promote that player trade model that has been important to us and has seen players come through, and we can still endorse that. And obviously continue with the academy. We had 7 debuts this season, so we want to try and continue that as well. We then go and look at the culture behind the scenes and what's happening at the football club. we're implementing a lot of processes to change certain areas we feel need improving. Again, all for the end goal being out on that rectangle out there behind you all. A big thing for me is improving the accountability of each individual person at the football club, and Nick touched on it earlier about, you know, we do pay people. We know I should be accountable for player recruitment. People should be accountable for their own jobs. So we're going to promote that. Each player, member of staff that joins this off-season will be inducted thoroughly into the football club with the help of my good friend who's inducted me, Ivor Heller, and hopefully Jonesy will help now and again. The community engagement of the players, the D-Lag stuff, that all needs to be improved, and it is part of our strategy moving forward. And then just improvements around the structures and processes around player recruitment. The training ground, as Mick said, the structure behind the scenes that support the first team and the academy and our delivery, which is what you guys see on a Saturday. At the minute, I don't feel our team and what you guys have seen in the past 5, 6 or so weeks is reflective of what we're trying to build this very moment. Hopefully it will be from the new season and further beyond. And the biggest one that I've made a lot of noise about is the injuries. The level of injuries this club suffered over the last 2 years has been really, really disappointing, and there are some structures and processes we can put in place that will not mitigate all injuries, but hopefully if we can get some of those soft tissue and muscle injuries down, that'll make a massive impact on us. Johnny will have players available he can pick from, and we're keeping our money on the football pitch rather than in the stands and in hospitality areas. So that's all from me. Again, I'll take any questions later on. Danny? This one.
I'm just going to speak for 60 or so seconds. When I started 6 months ago, I said we needed to sort 3 things out. Now, I've come from the benefit of coming from Lake Norient, obviously left and they won the league, so when I leave here you can enjoy that as well. But all joking apart, one of the reasons I joined here is I knew I could take some of the lessons that I was first-hand accountable for and second-hand accountable for at Lake Norient on and off the pitch. Whilst my responsibility is off it, myself, Craig, Johnny, Mick, Michael and others all work together to try and create one culture. When I first came here, when I first went to the training ground, I saw 2 different completely sites, 2 different cultures. The training ground is broken. It's not fit for purpose. We will be making investments and are making investments now. We eat in a pub, the players do, and that's not fit for purpose. The gym's not good enough, so we're addressing that. The list goes on. This stadium is not quite finished to where it wants to be. This lounge, literally any week now, we'll be getting a mini overhaul, the light and the sound. I stress the sound needs to improve. Those that were here on Sunday night would have seen that we had a dance floor. We don't have one permanently in here, that has to be in here. There's an awful lot we've got to do behind the scenes to make this club sustainable and successful. I believe we've got the platform to the left. I've seen the ingredients that make sports clubs successful. I've seen that at Essex Cricket, I've seen that at Lake Norient, and I believe we've got the ingredients to start making that. We could slice and dice, change managers every week, every month if certain voices had their way. I believe in what the PLC board, what Nick, myself and everyone around this table agrees, and the vision we're trying to go forward with. We're not sitting here under any illusion that this season's been in any way acceptable, but we believe the structure, the culture and the collaboration that we're putting in will allow us the best chance we can to succeed. We need to increase our playing budget. As Mick alluded to, we're probably 17th in the league table for spend. We're behind many other clubs that at the start of the season we thought we were going to be ahead of. In January, clubs like Gillingham, like Colchester went big and then went bigger. We have to look at ways that we can increase that without going stupid. To add to the £10 or so million debt, we've got to be very sensible, and as a fan-owned club we've got even more reason to go and do that. So in terms of raising those revenues, we all play a part. Our season ticket sales is just a slight update on the 1500, we're now at 1700, which is nothing short of phenomenal. That's above where we hoped and wished to be at this stage. We're literally just a week into it and we're 400k into just over £1 million of targets. I think that on rough maths is 36%, and we had a mailing that landed at the weekend. We all play a part in helping us drive forward that playing budget, and I believe we've got the structure to make sure that is invested wisely in terms of our player recruitment, and I believe we're structure in place to give us the best chance of succeeding. Is there anyone wants to add anything before we do pass back to Chris to then open to the floor? We're now at 1:45. We'll do quarter of an hour questions, then take a quick 10-minute break, so you can take a refreshment break and a convenience break. So quarter of an hour of questions. I'm going to hand back to Chris now. So this is an open forum. Ask everyone to ask their question constructively and mindful. There's children in the room, children watching, and so I just want to stress we're all in this together. We all want to take this club forward. How we get there is how we get there collectively, and we'll do that collectively if we can all sing with one voice. That could be passed to Chris, please.
So let's move on to the questions. Don't be shy, I'm sure you're all waiting. And thanks to the podcast team for all the help tonight with the streaming, and one of my friends here is going to pass whoever wants to ask the first question.
Right. Yeah. Well, thanks very much for your introduction.
Could you just say your name when you're speaking?
Okay, it's Andy. Right. I haven't bought my season ticket yet, but I'm going to do it the next couple of days, so that'll be another one. The question is, if you're aiming towards, mentioned 7th in the league, going by what we've just learnt about us being 17th, have we got the budget to what we think we've identified as a 7th position amount of money?
Thanks, Andy. Thanks. I'll hold you to buying your season ticket. Yeah, so factually, the numbers don't look amazing if you want to go for top 7, but I feel if we can get our infrastructure right behind the scenes. I'm just waiting for Andy to. So yeah, we can get our infrastructure right behind the scenes, we can set out what we're going to do, and there's clear transparency in what we're doing and accountability in our processes, we can overachieve our budget. So our aim will always be to try and finish in that top 7 regardless of what our budget is, which I think is important. Yeah. So that's from me. I'm just going to.
We haven't got. Sorry. That answer was saying we haven't got a top. I'm not being, pushing you too much, but you haven't actually said that you've got a top 7 budget. What you just said is that you want to overachieve. So whereabouts between 7 and 17 do you think we might be? Just give me a rough idea.
So Andy, I think the board is meeting on Friday to finalise all the budgets for next year.
Okay.
So we're still optimistically going through every revenue line and looking at what kind of growth can be achieved. We're looking at all the cost bases to see how we can not spend quite so much in certain areas,
yes,
to get as much as we can into the playing budget. I very much doubt we'll have a top 7 playing budget next year, okay, but I would hope. I mean, you just don't know what the clubs coming up and the clubs coming down are going to spend.
Yeah.
And in January, Gillingham and Colchester, I think Gillingham had a takeover, Colchester had a makeover, and they both spent so much money which we didn't foresee. So we're trying to get the budget as high as possible, but I would really hope we're higher than 17th next season, but we won't be 7th. Highly unlikely.
17th in budget, but better in...
No, I would hope that we're going to be higher than 17th next season, yeah, but we won't have a top 7 budget.
And that's right, we haven't spent the sales money yet, have we? Or something.
Correct, okay, yeah. Can somebody put the hand up, say their name and ask a question, please? Hello. I'm quite happy to take the question that's been shouted, but can you do it?
Hello, Craig here.
Hello,
right,
Craig.
Let's get this out of the way. Sunday night. Right, Johnny, I understand with the team you've lost players, okay, and we appreciate that, right? But for me, when the players come in late to a do, drunk, people paid £90, right? One, I think the respect for you has gone if the players act like that. Secondly, why weren't the players dealt with, either asked to leave straight away or just told to shut up when you've got somebody who works on ITV on the stage can't get heard through heckling. Our president is talking and they're still shouting and screaming. We had one of our volunteers that night working, doing raffle, trying to get the raffle money, right, to get some more money for our club. So he's not really a fan, so this was his takeaway from that. So when he left here on Sunday and he's asked about this would be his feedback on that event to his friends. The club organised a good do on Saturday and I was proud to be involved as part of Don's local match group. Thanks and well done to all the staff who pulled it off. Unfortunately, a significant number of the players there didn't show respect to the event, arriving drunk and late, then proceeding to interrupt the formal proceedings by standing up, chatting between courses and not returning to their table when their awards were being presented. Seems to be a lack of leadership at the club, as no one appeared to intervene from management to regain order, and the MC really had to struggle to keep the event under control. I think those in attendance didn't see it as a big party event, given the season hasn't even finished. On the pitch, I think the boys were misguided and misinformed about how to behave. I'd have definitely been kids upset if I'd paid the best part of £100 to witness their oafish behaviour. Pass on my thanks and congratulations to Danny Macklin, Mandy and the rest of the organisers for putting on the event, and thanks again for getting him involved. I think it's a bigger issue, the players there, that says a lot about what they think of the club, the fans, the manager, the management, and everybody up there really. I think it's disgraceful because you deserve more than that. So that's as simple as that.
Yep, so thanks for that, Craig. Couldn't agree with you more, to be honest. We was all really disappointed and appalled actually in a lot of the behaviour. Sorry? Yeah, well, we have...
Give him a chance to answer.
Well, yeah, along those lines, Craig. So we was all upset with it. We recognised it wasn't right in any way, shape or form, and wasn't in line with the values of this football club. Certain people have been reprimanded today, and details, where we can, details of that will go out, but we are looking to make amends, certainly with some charitable work, donations, and try and make some good out of that in any way we can, and obviously address the whole squad and reminded them of their responsibilities away from the pitch, that they're still representing this football club, and the standards that they got to on Sunday night fell well short of what's expected of them. They recognise that themselves. They're very apologetic and are keen to sort of make up from it, but obviously we apologise for that, and we don't condone it in any way, shape or form.
I hope that tells you a lot of how some of them respect you, John, more than anything else. So some of them you may class as friends or muckers and some stuff like that. When they treat you like that, mate, just ain't right. Whatever the season's brought, good or bad, a manager doesn't deserve to be treated like that when he's on a low anyway.
Yeah, Craig. There's been a lot of lessons learned. Sunday was another one, but obviously over the past sort of few weeks and months, there's been a lot of lessons learned about a lot of different aspects and individuals, and obviously we've got big decisions to make on a lot of issues and individuals this summer, and obviously we'll be working hard on that.
Yeah, Craig, I think he's spot on. I sat there the other night, I didn't like what I saw. I saw what happened this morning. I can't get into details about what's going to happen. So I think Johnny's touched on it and put it to bed. He addressed it this morning. So when I say to you, we want to put a team out there that's representative of you guys and what you guys can be reflective of, that wasn't it. So the summer's going to be tough, it's going to be hard, and we're going to try and right some of the wrongs that have happened this season. I can sit here now and say it's going to be a ruthless summer, but we need to act professionally with it. Obviously we're all working at the football club, we all care what happens at this football club because it affects our livelihoods, but without going into too much detail or too much emotion right now, I hope we sit here in the next forum after the summer or whenever we are and we're all talking about the actions that have followed. We're all talking at the moment, I'm talking about what I'm planning on doing, and I hope the actions are going to back that up, what we're going to do for the next forum.
Right then, anyone next? Yeah, this guy over there.
Oh, sorry. There's another one over there.
Yeah, go on.
Good evening.
Over there.
Good evening, panel. Question for Johnny. Johnny, we've got to remember you're still a young manager, but have you learned a lot from this season? I mean, most managers long before you have gone through bad spells. You know, okay, we dropped like a stone from January, but Steve Evans last year, Stevenage, they were fourth last year and got promoted. So do you feel you have the tools and the energy and the drive to get us out of this rut? And if so, how do you plan to do it, to make yourself a better manager?
Well, yeah, obviously I have to learn the lessons, you know, like I said in my little speech, you know, the hurt and suffering that we've suffered, myself included, can't be for anything. And I've learned a lot, you know, about myself in the tougher moments, how you deal with it. I've learned a lot about my players, the squad, the league, what it requires, and a lot of the opposition that we come up against, about them too. So what I do know is it's a real big summer for us. I think recruitment is the most crucial part of any make-up of squad, and we didn't get that quite right this summer or in January for various different reasons, but like I said, we are in a much better position now, and obviously we need to sort out the, you know, I can't be sat here in 3 months' time saying that we've got loads of injuries again. I understand that, so we have to, you know, we have to meet that head on and, you know, do a deep dive into it and ask the reasons why, and put things in place to make sure that doesn't happen again. And some of that's down to recruitment, and some of that's more about how we can, you know, we can deal with the injuries, or obviously we have to try and get less. We had obviously 57% player availability since the turn of the year, which is going to make life difficult for anyone. So, but what we can't do is be sat here in 2-3 months' time and talking about the same things. We have to put the things in place now that, okay, that happened, why did it happen? Let's put a structure in place to make sure that never happens again. So those are the lessons that I have learned. And obviously now that's on me and Craig and everyone up here to put that in place so that it doesn't happen again. If it does happen again, then obviously that, you know, we've done something wrong there.
Hi there, Vicky. I'm just speaking on behalf of my dad, because obviously he's not here to be able to ask a question. Johnny, my dad was a volunteer for over 50 years and dedicated his life to the club. He was very passionate and he was very, very loud. And I think my ears are still ringing, but I'm sure everybody that used to sit near him knows exactly what I'm talking about. One of the things that I would ask, if you're staying, is that could we please have it that you look like you're slightly more interested on the pitch during games rather than just that your hands are in your pockets, you don't look like you care at all, which is obviously difficult because I understand people show their emotions completely differently. I was actually staying in the same hotel as you at Harrogate, and I was spending a lot of time talking to Rob and Bezo, who I absolutely love, by the way, and I'm glad they're still here. and you didn't even acknowledge that we existed. We had players that had their feet on tables, had feet on chairs in the tracksuit. They moved all the furniture around. They just were behaving like big time Charlies, and quite frankly, it's embarrassing. So all I'm asking is, if you're staying, can we please have a different approach on the touchline from yourself, and can we have a different approach from the players, just so that we're not embarrassed?
So, I'll just address that quickly. So thank you very much for the question. In terms of the players, the culture, I think I've addressed that, and I think the summer's going to be pretty telling, and we hope for better behaviour from our players in future. In terms of not just Johnny's demeanour, people's demeanour, I think people act different ways, but in terms of hurting and caring, walking into that manager's office after the games, after the Salford game, after the phone calls we had after the Harrogate game, after the Barrow game, we took the kids up, and they did well. They did proud of the kids. That performance. There isn't anyone that wears it more than Johnny. He takes responsibility, which a lot of managers don't. He cares. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I take that on board. Obviously, you know, you have a certain demeanour on the touchline. You know, happy to have that constructive criticism and take it on board. But what I would say is I'm completely invested in this job and in this football club. And whether you believe that or not, I can assure you, on a Saturday night after a defeat, I don't think there's a single person in this room that feels worse than what I do. You might want to have a chat to my wife, and she can probably confirm that, but I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about the opportunity that I've been given here, and very grateful for it. And succeeding and giving you guys what you deserve means everything to me. So whether whether that's portrayed on the touchline or not, in your opinion, you know, I take it home with me. I work hard and I try and improve for the next time, and I care deeply about it. So I hope you believe that. I hope that helps. And apologies for not acknowledging you. Obviously, come and say I don't think I'm a rude person. I would happily had a chat with you, but I apologise for that arrogance.
Johnny, Mick is my name, and my question is, you spoke a little bit about lessons being learned and things that have happened this season that have informed you going forward. I'm just curious, I want to get on board and believe in you, I want to do that. In terms of the way you've done things this season, can you give me a couple of examples of things that, maybe mistakes, aside from the injuries or the recruitment and stuff, mistakes that you feel you might have made, that possibly going forward, couple of those, if I had my time again moments this season where you think, you know what, I might have got that wrong, I wish I'd done something a bit different there. Can you think of any examples of that?
I'm just going to hand over to Johnny now, but it's the last question before we have the little break, and then there will be questions after that.
Yeah, I think the most obvious, thanks for the question, Mick, I think the most obvious answer to that is with the style of play that we was trying to implement at the start of the season. I had a clear idea about wanting to play through the thirds and thought we could make that a success at League Two, and the ingredients weren't quite there. I didn't get all of that right myself. Perhaps some of the stuff I was asking of certain players wasn't correct, and I think if I'd have carried on down that road, I certainly probably wouldn't be sat here now. So for me, recognising that wasn't working, and recognising that there's obviously, this is a unique football club with a certain appetite of a way of playing football, and I needed to feed into that, and also it was absolutely the right thing to do at that stage, because what was going before wasn't working, and I really felt like in that middle period there, from when we did change up our style, going right through to sort of the turn of the year, we looked strong. We had a really good team, and it was very, very difficult to beat. And I sat in similar forums where we was speaking about that was a Wimbledon that you guys recognised and that could get behind. That's the team that I know that I can deliver, because it was there. It was there. All the things were in place, and that got taken away from us for certain reasons. But in that period, I would think that he was enjoying watching the team, and it was a team that you could get behind. So I learned a lot of lessons about that period, that opening period, that I won't be doing again next time round. And obviously I've learned a lot about, I think, the physical makeup of the division. I look at the best teams and the profile physically of their teams, and I think that's something that we lacked at times, and something that I'd obviously really want to address in the summer. Yeah, and obviously you said more about the on-field stuff, but obviously how we structure loans, how we structure our loans, and how we dip into the loan market going forward to make sure that the things that happened to us in January, that was out of our control, unfortunately, but that's the nature sometimes of loan deals. But can we try and mitigate those situations so that we don't lose key players to our team? So if that means that we will have to use the loan market because of where we're at, but can we use it in a way where if that sort of stuff was to happen again, that it doesn't have such a detrimental impact on our starting 11, and it's not going to basically rip the heart out of our team when we're having major success. Because often with the loans, it is out of your hands, and it is, you are at the mercy of the parent club, unfortunately.
I was just going to stop there for a 10-minute break, and then we'll be all question and answers after that. Thank you.